because you brought up content. And it says, I'm not good at creating content. How do I create content that will entice my ideal prospect to buy? And just as a side note there before you answer that, as I mentioned, I'm a hillbilly from high school or from Idaho. I graduated high school with a 2.1 GPA. And the only reason it was that high was because I had the opportunity to take a lot of shop and PE class. And so if I can create content, I'm sorry, you can too.
You're absolutely right. That's another one of those things where, like I said before, people are running out of reasons to not do this, no matter how demanding your job might be, or whether you think truly in your mind that you don't have a story to share or expertise to share. If you're passionate about something, you're an expert at it. Doesn't matter whether you're 10 minutes ahead of your ideal customer, doesn't matter whether you're an hour ahead of them or 10 years ahead of them. You have expertise to share. So just take that out of your mind right away. And in terms of content, I'm going to, Mark, we're just giving away so much on this. So I hope that everybody takes heed to all of the amazing tips and ideas and things that we're sharing, because Mark is very familiar with this. It's called a 10 by 10 system to create your content. Now, I won't go into so much detail to make it so that we can't entice you back on the show or into other, trainings we might have. But simply put, video marketing is one of the biggest, best, most sought after content distribution items that there is, because you can repurpose it in any way, shape, or form. What we're doing right now, right here on this interview, folks, we actually could create a collaborative book out of this. We could actually make a #1 best-selling book just out of this interview right here, not even break a sweat. By taking, this string that we're talking about here, by taking your ideal customer, finding out exactly how they think, what their problems are, what their questions are, you're able then to create topics. And you're able to take those topics, and all you have to do, and I don't even know, my phone's on Facebook Live, but let's say that this was my phone right here. All I have to do is just take my phone, and I don't need a fancy set. I don't need fancy lighting. People love the realism, and all I have to do is just record myself answering somebody's pain point. And I do that for, let's just say the most sought after objections, or the biggest red flags that people have about my business, my products, my services, my niche, my industry, whatever. And I create about, videos with about anywhere from about 1:30 to probably 3 minutes now of content. And I answer those specific pain points. And then I can repurpose all that content into books, PDFs, video series, other interviews. It does not matter. I can even make it podcasts, and I can repurpose it all. And I can have that throughout my marketing automation platform in my sales funnel. That makes it so that I can have books in there to give people. I can have videos in there for education purposes. And all of that is happening automatically, no matter what business. And I know I keep saying this, but it doesn't matter. You literally don't have any excuses to do this, because as long as you have let's just even say a smartphone, doesn't matter how old it is, as long as it has a camera on it, you can do this. You don't need huge startup. You don't, us as entrepreneurs, we don't go to banks to get loans for this. We don't, look for VC. We do this with the money out of our own pockets. So we have to be profitable from day one. So you can believe us whenever we say, and we have the authority to say, we know what we're talking about. This stuff works. So I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And you made a comment in there that I want to expound on a little bit, because a lot of times individuals say, well, gee, I'm not qualified. But you said as long as you're 10 minutes or an hour ahead of your ideal client, you are qualified. And, I'm human. And so I'm out there marketing and working with individuals, and I'm like, God, I'm no Dan Kennedy. And I know Dan Kennedy, Alex, and our audience may or may not, but just a little background on Dan Kennedy is he's the highest paid copywriter in the world, probably the universe. And but I was reading something about him the other day, well, or something he wrote, I should say. But before I get to that, he made Dan charges just to talk to him. You have to pay him over $18,000 just to get an appointment with Dan. And then that appointment is to be sold on him putting together a marketing campaign, writing copy for you, which starts at a minimum of $100,000 and goes up to millions of dollars. And so I'm like, well, gee, I'm no Dan Kennedy, and so I can't offer this service. And he was actually, I was reading in a newsletter, I think it was last month, and he said, not everyone needs my copywriting skill. There's a copywriter for everyone. There's a marketer for everyone. There's the fitness coach for everyone. There's the whatever you are. There's an audience for you because they're not ready for the top tier yet. If you're a top tier, great, go for it. But if that's what's stopping you is because I'm not a top tier, there's other tiers down there that are ready for you. And so don't let that hold you back.
I just can't tell you how, and that was a great expound on the whole expertise thing, because you don't have to, you don't have to be a professor of, 50 years to be considered an expert. You don't have to sit at your computer and take 4 years to write a book. Actually, quite frankly, it's more expensive to do it that way, because then you go the traditional routes of publishing firms and, they take the rights to your book, and then it's a whole legal mess. But you don't have to do those things anymore. And truth be told, you actually don't even need a lot of money to do this. If you were to say, Alex, I just don't have enough money to do this. I don't have, huge startup, or I'm a server at a restaurant, or I'm a bartender. That's enough. You don't need, a huge amount of tools and all these things to even be considered an expert. There are people that literally will, buy a green screen, drop it down behind them, turn on their smartphone, and go to town, and people listen to them. That's how YouTube was built. So all of these things that people are saying that I'm not an expert, I don't have time for this, or any of those things, they don't matter, or I'm too old. None of that matters. All of you can do this. Literally, while we're sitting here talking about it, you could already have your first, I'm not even kidding when I say this, you could already have your first basic sales funnel built in the time that we're running on, like 40 minutes now. You could have already had your first sales funnel set up, built with autoresponders and pages and call to actions in 30 minutes. It's not complicated. Now, of course, the more complex you want to make it for a more, personal customer experience and, all of those things, that takes more time, but it's not too complicated. You don't have to be a tech head. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to you don't have to go to school for computer engineering to know how to do this stuff and be successful at it. Mark was joking about his high school GPA. There are marketers that never even graduated high school, and they are crushing it with these exact same philosophies and strategies that we're sharing with you right now.
Yeah. So, and I hear about a year ago, and I wish I could remember the source. It's a credible source, but they said, if you want to be an expert on a specific subject, find 3 books, read them, study them, devour them, and you now know 90% or more about that niche or that industry, that product, that service, whatever, than 90% of the customers that you'll ever try to get.
Think about how much money you save on your books from college. Just having to go out and buying, whatever your expertise, whatever you want to become successful in the niche. Mark's right. Go out, buy a few of those books, read them, devour them, and start to reverse engineer and create your plan for your customer ascension funnel, or your sales funnel, your marketing automation. And the 10% that he's talking about there to take you over that edge is just the testing. That's it. It's just making sure that your copy's right. Like he was saying with Dan Kennedy, copy is so important because not because he charges $18,000, but with everything that's going on online today, with emails coming in every 5 seconds, text messages, your copy has to keep them engaged long enough to get them to your call to action, to want to take action on your value prop. So, I mean, we keep going around in circles with this exact same philosophy, but but that's because it all keeps coming back to the exact same philosophy. So by devouring those few books and then actually starting to take action, and quite frankly, the majority of people here watching this interview today aren't going to take action. I think it's like some 80% that actually aren't going to do anything. I mean, we're literally giving you for free today on this interview what we charge people thousands of dollars for per a couple of days even, and we're giving it to you today for free. And if you don't take action on this, that's on you. And unfortunately, 80% of you that are watching this probably won't do anything about it. So I implore you, take advantage of everything we're talking about and make success. It's not hard. I mean, it's easier than ever.